Oh, I love 1985.
Hi, I'm Grace Jones. This is 1985. '85 was the year when you young Brits got American. It was big, brash and beautiful, so buckle up for a roller coaster ride through 1985. It's 1985, and you're about to step out into the big bad world. What did you want to be? A model? Maybe you wanted to be a Hollywood star? How about a pop star? Come on, you can't have everything, can you?
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Grace Jones, slave to the rhythm.
I'm just playing around, baby.
Whenever you look back at the 80s, you know, Grace Jones is one of the faces of the 80s, undoubtedly.
It's like she was my icon because I was very much a tomboy. I wasn't into all these girly girls.
And Grace is just out there, you know, eccentric, off the wall, a true artist.
We just loved to try everything, and that's what puts you really on the cutting edge. You have, like, you know, Edith Piaf songs or a tango or Jamaica. It's just mixing every part of me.
My Jamaican guy. Do, 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 do.
My Jamaican guy. My Jamaican guy. My Jamaican guy. Oh.
She was a model, and she kind of had a model chic. She knew how to carry herself, you know.
As a model, she'd done all these photos naked with this stunning body. So there was this openness about her. And she just looked magnificent.
I enjoyed fame as a model, but music was my inspiration. Alongside my creative partner, Jean-Paul Goude, we developed the Grace Jones look.
I just thought it was time for Grace to just stretch out her aspect, because she has a very threatening side of her personality as well as a very assuring one.
Between the two of them, they're very creative with the image manipulation, and it was really exciting.
I guess I was able to carry it off because of the androgyny, you know, my male side.
And I just decided to exaggerate that, to really bring it out.
I mean, this is something we just had fun with.
And in a way that David Bowie in the 70s had been this androgynous thing that women absolutely found really sexy, Grace Jones was the female equivalent of the 80s.
Feeling like a woman, looking like a man, sounding like a no-no, making when I can.
She played the borderline. You know, you look at her, is she a man or a woman?
A large part of my masculine side comes across on stage. I want to experiment with it more, and I want to use it more. I just set out to be more male than the male. Sit down, no. Coming on.
She was very sexy. As a woman, she was sexy, you know.
Wasn't nothing sexy about Grace Jones.
Sit down, no.
No, dear God.
Men's sexual the hell with their sexual fantasies. I mean, I exploit my sexual fantasies, you know.
I love that car advert. She'd evolved into this work of art, this walking, living, breathing work of art.
When you are involved with an artist, you see things as design. So it's just a matter of complementing that and pushing that to the edge. It's how do you make it now? I broke into Hollywood, first with Conan the Destroyer, then in 1985 with James Bond.
This was Mayday in A View to a Kill. She were belting James Bond baddie.
I see you're a woman of very few words.
What's there to say?
Everywhere you go from here on in, people are going to demand you to be physical and throw people around. How are you going to cope with all that?
What do you mean? In the movies, fantasy, or in real life?
Well, both.
What do you want me to throw you around? Is that what you expect, is it?
But some believe my most explosive performance was on the Russell Harty Chat Show.
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
No, your accent is a bit foreign. Oh, dear.
I'd never produced a chat show before. I decided to do it differently, so the first guest was here, and the other guests came along there.
And all of a sudden, Russell was turning his back to me and completely ignoring me.
And she just said, "Don't turn your back on me." And he said, "Well, I have to turn my back on you because some idiot producer's gonna put the guests there."
She says that she's just met you.
Don't turn your back to me.
Well, he's got to. She says. She says.
He said, "If you do it one more time," I don't know what I said I was going to do, and it just ended up that he did it again and again and again.
No, if you turn your back to me one more minute, really.
I have got to talk
this
to
has
this.
been going on too long already.
Well, it's only going to go on about another 6 minutes, and you're going to have another little part of it soon.
Maybe I should go right now.
No, don't go right now unless you really want to.
Well, don't turn your back on me anymore.
I can't look at you. Now, hold.
You know, God rest his soul, but I mean, I didn't know it was going to turn out like that.
Just
move your chair back a bit or something.
I just wanted some respect.
You just think you don't want to mess with somebody like that, or she might put your eye out with one of her breast cones. But, you know, once again, fear you can dance to.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's Grace.
Don't know much about history.
In the mid-'80s, Levi Jeans launched a major ad campaign off the back of a craze for their second-hand 501s.
And I know that if you love me too, what a wonderful world this would be.
The selling of second-hand jeans started in London, and we had a shop in the King's Road called American Classics. People began to realise that Levi 501s in particular are quite sexy things to wear.
Should I listen what you say, or listen what your folks say?
You know, we used to go, oh, I wonder who wore these. Maybe James Dean had worn my Levi's.
It's the first time really where people started looking at the stitching and trying to find out which were the authentic ones, and suddenly you became like a train spotter of denim.
And I remember my granddad, God rest him, who was a very smart man. I went to his house one day and he said, "They're workhouse clothes."
A lot of people in US prisons wore denim. It was a cheap and easy way of clothing your prison population. And every so often, when the jeans were wearing out, they would be sold off. And that's how they filtrated through to second-hand shops here.
And the main thing was red tab 501s. The best ones are ones that just kind of hung from below, where the gap was just below the knee and hung down nicely, and you'd show your knee.
But mine also had rips in the bum. I remember walking down the main shopping street in Dublin, and by 5 o'clock, it had gone all around Dublin and back to my boyfriend. My God, Magenta, you should have seen these jeans she was wearing. The bum was out, her bum was hanging out.
Well, my brothers and all their friends used to come over to the house and they used to wear their jeans really low, you know. And me and my friends used to be like, nice.
You always had 4 or 5 pairs of jeans in various stages of decay. You had the kind of new dark blue pair for best, right down to the very ripped up ones for best or worst.
A young stylist came into the shop with a very limited budget and needed to get some clothing for this boy band, and we managed to throw in a pair of Levi's, a white t-shirt. It took off like crazy.
We got like a certain look. We have like some of the same lines, you know, like the ducks and stuff. But you know, I mean, I'm on probably the Levi's and the Levi's and stuff. It's just I think we like quite a hard image, not too contrived at all.
Well, by '87, Levi's were being worn by Brossettes, which are the kind of the lowest level of any kind of fashionability you're ever going to get, and that was the end.
The 80s was all about size, and they didn't come any bigger than Arnold.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Terminator, an assassin from the 21st century, sent back through time. His target is a woman who holds the key to the future.
You know, it was the rudimentary command of English was a big part of the appeal. Silly Austrian accent, enormous muscles, and he went around and chopped people up.
It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse.
There's a whole spate at the time where he just made like film after film after film, and they're all like massive box office smashes, weren't they?
And it absolutely will not stop until you are dead.
I'll be back. That's a fantastic line.
Terminator.
The young Arnie first appeared on the international bodybuilding circuit. In London, he met the Bennett family, who took him under their wing.
Don't you ever stop.
We used to promote shows for him around the country, and that gave him a way to be seen, to improve all his sort of techniques, and to make some money. He used to get paid £10 per show. And we said to him, "You've got to have music. You've got to have your routine choreographed, Arnold." And, no, it's not macho enough. Okay? Yes, you have got to. After a lot of debate, he opted for Exodus, the theme music from Exodus. So we would put it on the record player in the front room, and there he would stand, and he would, and Wag would say, "No, up a bit, down a bit. No, do this."
And you think you could build more of your body than you've already got?
Oh yeah.
Much bigger, you think?
Yeah, much bigger, yeah.
They live in a world of 57-inch chests, 22-inch arms.
Arnie had the best body in the world and starred in the documentary, Pumping Iron.
And they got that way by pumping iron.
People were intrigued by Arnold because he defied their stereotypes of a bodybuilder. He was handsome, he was smart, he was enormously intelligent, and he was very funny indeed.
Certain parts of my body were just so huge. I was a man of perfection. So I had to bring the rest of the body up to that size so everything fits together.
Arnold always had a plan which was nothing less than a plan to take over America.
Now, somewhere, somehow, someone's gonna pay.
In 1985, Arnie struck gold in the blockbuster action movie Commando.
Do you think that he is going to give us any problems?
You'll do exactly as he's told.
Hasta luego, fellas.
You're a funny guy, Sully. That's why I'm going to kill you last.
And I think you slightly pioneered that whole funny throwaway line.
Every time he killed somebody, he would say something funny.
Come on, Bennett. Let's party.
You remember I told you I'd kill you last?
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
The entire audience, like Rocky Horror Picture Show, would say,
I lied.
I lied. I lied.
That became his trademark after that film, these one-line zingers.
It were all, well, mental, didn't it? People wanted explosions and killings, and they would like body count and how many people die in this film, and they banned it in Bolton. They couldn't handle it.
Dude, that's a big gun. I used to carry that gun when I was in the Army, and it has a tripod it sits on. You don't hold those things at your waist and shoot them. And he was shooting that gun like this. I mean, that gun weighs about 45 pounds. So Big Arnold was throwing a big gun around.
I never thought about how many people were being killed, but later when they said it was the largest bounty count in the history of the movies up to that point. But I looked at it and said, what is that? Did we kill that many people? But I would just, you know, line them up and kill 20 people at once in slow motion.
They were complaining about everything about me, not just about the name. They say you have a strange body, you have a strange accent, you have a strange name, forget it. You will never make it in movies.
Are you going to tell me what's going on or what?
No.
No! No!
I think he became a box office star off of the movie, and it was the #1 film of the fall, that particular fall, and from that point on, Arnold's career was off and running.
He calls me Conan the Republican. Well, soon I will call him Mr. President.
He's the only person I've ever met who said this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, at such an early age, and systematically did that, exactly.
By the mid-'80s, fish and chips were out and French fries were in. The Big Mac had come to town.
Is a real family treat. You're always welcome with a smile. It's the friendly place to eat.
May I help you?
Our hamburgers are delicious, all freshly cooked for you. So come on in, it's true. There's a great deal at McDonald's. There's a big smile at McDonald's. There's a difference at McDonald's you'll enjoy.
Yeah, I can remember the first time we got McDonald's in our high street. You know, it was like, wow.
They opened a McDonald's in Bolton, and it was massive. You know, I don't mean like a big building. I mean just popular.
In our town, McDonald's took up most of the town.
Yeah, it was massive when McDonald's started, and it was absolutely packed.
And like Big Mac, fries, apple pies, it was something new.
McDonald's was all American glitz, and you were taking in stuff.
I can remember people going, it'll never take off. Any meal where the drink is bigger than the food, do you know what I mean? It immediately sparks off a bit of concern.
I remember the first time I went to a McDonald's, and I remember what I had.
They'd had it all over the TV about these massive burgers, and could you handle a Big Mac?
My dad had a Big Mac, and I thought he were really hard because he ordered a Big Mac.
Big Mac, tall beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun.
You said it!
2 burgers on a Big Mac, 3 slices of cheese, loads of salad. My dad's eating a Big Mac. He's well hard.
That Big Mac, you know, and you're going, don't be ridiculous. Come on, you know you're not full.
Mum's saying, no, you can't handle it. Just have a burger. And I said, no, come on, Mum, please. Let me just have a Big Mac. Let me see what it's like trying to get my mouth around this big burger.
Yeah, we used to hang around there. It used to be a little meeting place virtually.
You'd see people coming in, they go straight upstairs. Nobody wanted to be downstairs. Everybody was upstairs.
Actually, for us, I don't think it was as cool as sitting near the window. A little posse.
Gherkins. McDonald's brought gherkins to this country. And everyone's like, gherkins. You don't have to put salt on your chips, it's already there.
Smallest imaginable bag. This is a wind-up or this is a starters.
I'll have a milkshake. That's extra. The milkshakes. You just want to drink it? You want to be sucking. I got a bit. I got a bit more. Crazy carry on from States, but we all dig it.
In 1985, the United States got a new national emblem. The eagle had landed and the boss was born.
If you're a fan of rock and roll, you have to be a fan of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Springsteen was and still is my hero.
He was the boss.
The boss.
He's just the average New Jersey guy in a bar who happens to sling on a guitar and turn into a rock hero.
I suppose 1985 is when Bruce Springsteen went from being a big rock act to a world superstar. There are certain years when there are a couple of records that everybody has to have. Frankly, in that year, Born in the USA was one of the ones that you had to have.
Born in the USA is used so much on television to symbolise things that were really good about America, and people, I mean, I didn't realise the song wasn't about that at all.
He's also very misunderstood, and Born in the USA particularly is hugely misunderstood. People took it as a real gung-ho Reaganite anthem, and it was quite the opposite.
This is a song that is a very dark tune about a man who fights in the war in Vietnam and returns to unemployment. At the same time, it's this unbelievable rah-rah, air-punching anthem.
Born in the USA is not ambiguous. All you gotta do is listen to the verses. If you don't listen to the verses, you're not gonna get the whole song. You're just gonna get the chorus. I realized at the time that that was okay, because that what you do if somebody doesn't understand your song is you keep singing your song.
He's the boss, we call him the boss and he is the boss.
If you listen to his lyrics, they're beautiful.
You just gotta go see him.
Turn out the light, bolt the door.
Yeah, in '85, it truly was one of the hottest tickets. I did go see his concerts. That was the big outdoor stadium tours. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
Oh, sexy. Sexy! Two dreams about him this week.
Women fancied him and men wanted to be him. There's no guy who ever picked up a guitar or even a tennis racket in his bedroom who didn't look at this and think,
there's this green tour bus. Bruce gets off the bus, starts walking towards the stage entrance door, which is about, 50 feet away from me. And he steps in and I say, "Hey, Bruce." He takes a step backwards. He said, "This guy looks more like me than I do."
Born in the USA, I'm a cool rockin' daddy in the USA.
Mike has gotten more double takes in his life than anybody you could ever imagine.
Ever since that night, I said, I just felt something on me, like I gotta become a musician. I want to be a rock star.
When it came to '85, when he played
3 shows at Wembley Stadium. At that point, it was at fever pitch. We actually blew up the switchboard. There were so many calls to buy tickets.
You gotta be there, man. You gotta be rocking.
I get up in the evening, and I ain't got nothing.
Suddenly, it was absolutely overground. By choosing at last to embrace doing videos with the likes of Dancing in the Dark, he suddenly reached this massive audience.
Hey, baby.
Got the young Courtney Cox up on stage to execute this rather kind of polite twist.
It was very poppy, and a lot of fans who I've met have said, you know, that was his turning point. Bruce sold out. He went pop, he went megastar, and he left us.
You know, thinking that this guy was ever going to be satisfied being a cult hero was completely misreading the man. In 1985, he turned himself into the biggest rock star on the planet.
You can't start a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This guns for hire. Even if we're just dancing in the dark.
So you've got this love story. A couple of young star-crossed lovers, a kind of Romeo and Juliet. Except that Juliet's a he, and it's set in a laundrette. Yeah, right. In 1985, a young screenwriter broke new ground with the film My Beautiful Laundrette.
The sex, the power, the suds.
A lot of stories, I suppose they could be true.
Ooh, very bold movie. That time, very bold.
Can do to you.
I remember going to TV companies and saying, look, there's this Asian family I want to write about, and they'd say, look, we don't want no Asians on our telly because no one's interested in Asians.
I know who it is.
How are you? All right? Working? We were told it was artistic, and some of us got it, and some of us didn't quite.
Daniel Day-Lewis and Saeed Jaffrey.
Can you keep the zoo under control?
We had some really good actors up for the part. We had Gary Oldman, Tim Roth, Ken Branagh and Daniel Day-Lewis, who were all interested in doing it. Daniel Day-Lewis being the most upper class in public school, obviously.
I knew that Stephen Frears, the director, was slightly worried about my having had a polite education, as the part was someone that came from a very different background.
Listen to me, Genghis. I don't want to fight. Tough.
And I did send him a threatening letter after I'd met him, saying that although I had a very good education, I had some very nasty friends as well.
Rumour has it that Daniel Day-Lewis threatened to break the director's legs if he didn't get the part. So that's how he got the part.
Call Tanya, ask her to bring some champagne. We'll drink to Thatcher and your beautiful laundrette.
Did I go together?
Like dal and chapatis. To
Cheers.
us.
A young lad, Omar, which I played, who is given the chance to run a laundrette. During the course of events, he bumps into an old school friend who happens to be Daniel Day-Lewis. They go into business together, and it becomes this sort of beautiful laundrette emporium.
I'm dead impressed by all this. You were the one at school, the one they liked.
Asians in Britain had been seen as all kinds of things before the 80s, shall we say. There were all kinds of stereotypes around about them. But the one thing they had probably never been thought of as was sexy.
Can you see me later? I'm so bored with these people. Games room, okay?
Ooh, very bold movie. Especially for Rita Wolf, who had to do the kind of flash scene, you know, the shirt up thing. I thought she was very, very brave to do all of that.
Leftist, communist, socialist.
What John's a racist Englishman.
I would have all kinds of people who were outraged by the film, and myself in particular, you know, and would come up to me and say, Laundrette is appalling. I've seen it 6 times and it's still appalling. You know, and you think, yeah, you've seen it 6 times, have you? Well, you must have found something that you liked in there.
Eyelash. I was about 22 years old when I got the role, and I was thinking, cool, blimey, I've got to snog a bloke in this.
What time did they say they'd be here?
An hour ago.
When are they going to come? Follow me.
It was a romance. It was rather like Romeo and Juliet in some way, except that they were two gay blokes, and it seemed magical to me suddenly.
I first saw My Beautiful Laundrette when I just moved to London, and I just come out, and it completely blew me away.
Nan, I've got a film from Video Shop for us. What is it? My Beautiful Laundrette. Put it on.
And I remember actually seeing My Beautiful Laundrette in some place like Milton Keynes, and these kids were cheering and shouting and all that, and suddenly these two blokes started snogging.
A laundrette as big as the Ritz. Oh, yes.
My mum turned it off as soon as they started kissing. You know, my mum was like, there's no... Why did they have to spoil a film with that? And you're going, because it's a love story. But it's too... But more...
Eject. Take it back.
There ain't nothing I can say to make it up to you. There's only things I can do to show you that I am with you.
In those days, it just kind of blew people's minds completely. And of course, now when you look at it, it's just a kiss.
We are learning. But where are those two buggers?
Hello, Tosh got a Toshiba? Hello, Tosh got a Toshiba? Like your hi-fi system, Get your ears round that. Wallop. Get your ears round that. Wallop. Hello, Tosh got a Toshiba?
I was a hi-fi salesman, and I convinced a friend of mine that he needed this camera and I wanted his synthesizer. And so I swapped it. It wasn't so much sampling, it was really more at the time sort of just scratching and stuff. There was a guy called Kool Herc, if I remember right, from New York, and he sort of really started all that off. But it was only with 2 decks. Up until then, sampling was really sort of like myself and the art of noise.
Close to the edge. To the edge.
Days, the maximum sampling time was like 2 seconds. And I think maybe that's where 19 came from, because it was such a short word. You know, I couldn't have got a lot in there.
In World War II, the average age of the combat soldier was 26. In Vietnam, he was 19. In Vietnam, he was 19.
Paul Hardcastle's 19 was, for me, a really, really seminal record.
19.
Although I wasn't aware technically about sampling, I was aware that this was different and something was going on here.
I wasn't really sure what was going on.
Just that sample, the na-na-na-19, as a musician, I heard that and I was like, how did he do that?
19. None of them received an hero's welcome. None of them.
I was watching a TV documentary called Vietnam Requiem, and it was all about the age of the combat soldiers in Vietnam. And I thought it was quite horrific that kids of not even reaching 20 were so young that were going and being obliterated. What I did, I taped the programme and took all the voices and things off of it, so all the facts and figures were perfect.
You're 18 years old and you're wearing somebody's brains around on your shirt because they got their head blown off right next to you.
It shocked him. He was just somebody like an artist, you know, literally a painter who just sees a terrible thing and paints it, and you feel the truth of it, and that's what hit everybody.
They got their head blown off right next to you.
They got their head
blown off right next to you.
I took it into Chrysalis Records, and most of the people there looked at me as if I was like balmy.
8 to 10 years after coming home, almost 800,000 men are still fighting the Vietnam War.
I had no idea whether it was a hit or not, because it's such a weird subject. Is radio going to play this?
We put it out on the 10th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, and the following week it went in at 4 and then went to 1 and stayed there for 6 weeks.
None of them received the hero's welcome.
But aren't you making money out of the Vietnam War?
I'm not trying to make money out of Vietnam. It's just, I mean, you could say then if I was to choose another subject, I'm trying to make money out of that subject. It's just something that was quite strong at the time, and I believe people should sort of like hear about it more.
19.
The video is very alternative because it did include lots of images of Vietnam with a supposed pop song, and I think that was good because I don't think kids knew anything about Vietnam.
But Paul landed in hot water when the narrator of the American documentary sued him.
Some clever lawyer in America decided that the guy whose voice was on there, he could say that it was only given us permission for video rights. In the end, anyway, we had to sort of pay him like £300,000.
In Saigon, a U.S. military spokesman said today...
It's not played as an oldie very much at all, oddly enough. It's like too powerful, too weird. I mean, radio is forever trying to eliminate the things that give people unease.
When you look back at things, I think you like to listen to a fashion, and I wasn't in any way fashionable with that record. You know, it wasn't like, say, Spandau Ballet that you'd instantly remember their clothes or Duran or whatever.
All we want to do is come.
What did we do it for?
All we want to do is come.
Was it worth it?
There's only one thing that unites us, one thing that we all have in common. What is it?
You don't lace them like look like that way all the way up. You have one that goes up to the top and the other one just laces across like that all the way.
It's not class or ideology.
The higher and the more laces you had, the cooler you were, you know.
Call it creed or roots.
Because I think they're the ugliest things I've ever seen.
The only thing that unites us is
Dr. Martens boots!
Dr. Martens, Dr. Martens,
Dr. Martens boots.
Before 1985, Dr. Marten boots were for builders. After 85, every fashion victim in Britain had a pair.
We started making Dr. Martens in about 1960. It was actually a German invention.
It was Dr. Funk and Dr. Martens, who between them came up with this strange air cushion sole.
They lasted forever. The soles on those shoes.
There's legends really surrounding where the actual name came from. There's one legend suggests that Dr. Funk was a bit corny and it also sounded like Dr. Funk.
So it was anglicised to Dr. Martens. From there it was just shortened to DMs or Docs or those bleeding great boots.
We're sorry. They went from being seen as a kind of skinhead, right-wing kind of thing to being kind of really trendy lefty, like communards used to wear them.
Tony Benn wearing them.
Jimmy Somerville.
Billy Bragg and that whole kind of red wedge thing that was going on.
When women swapped their high heels for Dr. Martens, a new craze began.
Because they were sort of the opposite of anything any girl had ever worn before. You know, they didn't have heels, they looked like boys' shoes.
I love those shoes because you could wear short skirts with them, but you didn't look like you were trying to be a sex kitten.
We were producing something like 40,000 pairs a week going into 1985. By the end of 1985, I think if we could have produced 5 times that amount, we still wouldn't have been able to supply the market.
And I'd spend time going off to all these small wholesalers, buying every single pair of Dr. Martens up, and we'd just get them all back and start customising.
Wayne Hemingway would buy other trinkets and items and put that through the eyelets and obviously be able to sell a customised pair of Dr. Martens.
We let our customers help themselves by showing them ways to wear shoes with a little bit of difference. We'd help them along a bit by selling safety pins at 50p each, but we don't. We think that's for the people who haven't got much in house. You're going to edit this, aren't you?
Paul King perhaps wore the worst pair of Doc Martens of all time, didn't he, when he had them all painted up and his trousers hitched up and they had the mullet haircut and everything, didn't they? It was a real kind of utter shoe disaster. Start your journey. But he used to be a cop, didn't he, so maybe they were his old cop shoes that he painted up or something. But he had them all wrong. You don't wear Doc Martens like that. You don't paint them, do you?
Take your head, dry, blow them all away.
I had daisies on them to begin with, sort of Paul King meets De La Soul.
You can't do that to a pair of Doc Martens.
I used to put tartan laces in mine as well, pieces of ribbon.
Sacrilege.
Goths would wear them, indie kids really used to love them. All the bands of the time, the Specials, Madness and stuff were wearing them.
I'm taking it round the whoa, whoa.
became like this massive explosion. We were selling them on Camden Market, and you couldn't box them up quick enough. Well, you times 1,000 by 20 odd pounds. Imagine emptying that out onto a glass table when you got home, and then looking underneath the glass table just to check if it was real.
What's the attraction to DMs? What have they done for you?
They've made me very, very rich.
No one could resist the charm of a pair of ducks.
It was a complete surprise to us when the Pope bought a pair. I think it was a white pair, actually. And I have a letter, actually, thanking me from the Pope in which he puts emphasis on how much he likes the Dr. Martens and offers abundant blessings to me.
This little thing that Griggs had started and that we'd sold on Camden Market became this world phenomenon. And it was just like, well, thank you. Thank you, Jesus, for giving me Dr. Martens and giving me all this money.
Every teenager needs to be miserable for at least a couple of years. In 1985, goths turned it into a lifestyle.
We ask that you turn around in your seats or leave this auditorium for the next 2 minutes. Thank you.
Goths were the shadow people of my town.
It's always like odd drinks like rum and black currant or something like that. Or snakebite, of course, was the big goth drink as well.
I mean, there used to be just millions of goths everywhere. Every time you went out, there were just goths lining the clubs. You know, Rocky Horror meets the Addams Family.
I remember my mum once refusing to walk on the same side of the street to me.
I think every generation's got its miserable bands, I know. It's always like some band that writes miserable tunes for students who just left their parents to go to university. And I thought the goth thing actually served that generation quite well.
People were sick of Spandau Ballet and Duran Duran and stuff like that, you know, Culture Club.
And I think people just wanted to get away from that and to be miserable if they wanted to be.
The Cult She Sells Sanctuary was the best sounding 12-inch I've ever heard. It was just such a huge, huge sound.
When people used to play it in the discos at college and stuff like that, it was a real floor filler.
It sort of stood out because it was a real anthem and it was very strong up guitar chords.
Goths would always sort of bounce. The heads would be like those sort of nodding dogs on the back of cars.
Yeah, that.
The neck would be very loose and they'd sing Morrissey or something.
You had to pout a lot.
It was the archetypal teenage thing. It was the kind of, I'm depressed, no one understands me, so I'm going to put lots of makeup on and dye my hair black.
So wonderfully, 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 wonderfully pretty.
Robert Smith had the haircut, and I suppose he's influential for a lot of people. He's probably the entrance into goth for a lot of kids.
We should have each other to tea, huh? We should have each other with cream.
I wanted to be a goth, and I would spend hours just trying to backcomb my hair and get all the thick black eyeliner on, and always sort of turn up and people would say, God, that's so yesterday, Sue. Everyone's wearing loose shirts.
You used to dye your hair black and you spent hours in the morning trying to get ready for school, crimping your hair while hanging off the bottom of the bed. So you'd lie on your bed with your sister's crimping irons, your mother screaming up, says, what are you doing? The maintenance to be a goth was so high.
I know about gothic stuff, and gothic chicks are ill too. They're really wet, pale white, and I'm like, what's it like on the other side?
Susie Sue's not strictly a goth. I think if you sat her down and asked her if she was a goth, I think you'd get told to sod off, you know?
Ooh, yeah, ooh, don't. Ooh, quick, change the subject. I'm going to have to go to therapy.
Susie Sue looks very gothic, and I did try and copy her makeup and her dress.
There became a lot of girls or boys that kind of had the black eyes, the black hair.
It takes quite a while to get your makeup looking quite good. It's about 10 years.
And I remember feeling, oh my God, what have I done?
1985, Britain got a TV show whose presenter was just a little bit different to the rest. Meet Max.
Woo! This is like opening a Beaujolais wine. It's a new show. It's a new show.
Oh, Max Headroom was just brilliant.
The roses you've sent him. And old Callum.
It was like all that sort of 80s thing of like square jaw and big quiff, sort of taken to the extreme.
It's a new show. Oh yeah, I'm full of emotion.
He was amazing. I mean, it was like, what is this? And people would talk. Have you seen Max Headroom?
So you know you may be in traction.
Used to go Max Headroom all the time. Until it became quite wearing.
Yeah, sorry. It's a new show. You know, I'm so happy tonight. I want to win. I want to love. I want to.
We were approached to work on a programme for Channel 4 which linked music videos together.
They needed some kind of glue to stick them all together.
Yes.
Our response was, what could be more boring than trying to link music videos together?
And we came up with the answer, which is The Talking Head.
Hi, it's Max.
So how strikes me, old Maccabi, old Sparrow?
And how about a little tasty smidgen of this?
I was moving, she was right there with it, and she was.
I mean, we were using video editing for the first time, and we realised that on video you can experiment much more in the editing. You did lots of fast cutting.
So how strikes me, old Maccabi, old Sparrow?
Hello, top of the morning to you, Squire.
That's Irish.
Now then, seriously, how can I help you? Fire away. What do you want to ask me?
How do you comb your hair?
With a pitchfork.
We could use the editing techniques to actually deepen his personality. You know, completely scramble him up.
Was he real or was he virtual reality?
Unmistakable,
isn't it?
I think people genuinely were confused about what it was.
Because was he computer generated or was he?
Wow, it's really weird.
I used to get calls from journalists, and I would say to them, well, it's just a man in a rubber mask. They'd say, go on, it's, you're having me on.
Well, I screen tested for it, and I had to go into a studio and ad-lib around 8 lines of dialogue, and I ad-libbed in front of a camera for about a half an hour. They seemed to like that, and then I did another kind of half-hour audition, and then that seemed to go okay, and then 2 further interviews. The rest is history.
So we stretched his head a little bit, took his chin down, special contact lenses, latex wig, fiberglass jacket, and just completely transformed his upper half of his body.
It's a very grueling makeup session, roughly about sort of 4.5 hours with prosthetics, rubber makeup.
It was so successful, he even got a BAFTA award for computer graphics.
It became an icon, really, of that period, and it had that same phenomenal kind of success in America.
This is Max Headroom's pop quiz. And what I want to know is, Swagger, where does the refreshing new phrase, catch the wave, come from? Obviously, cocologists. Blindfold, please.
We were kids. We didn't even know about how you could keep control of your ideas and how you needed lawyers to do all that stuff.
The Coca-Cola ads, I mean, you're raking it in, Sunshine, aren't you?
I hired people to do the raking for me.
We didn't see any of the royalties from that side of things. In fact, I got married that year, I was broke.
From time to time, I get a little bit temperamental with the guys around me. You see, I'm the idol of millions, and, well, that's the trouble. They're idle, and I earn millions.
Max Headroom's very, very close to our hearts. I mean, it's like our baby.
Guys, for God's sake, don't crease the soup, will you?
When you go to sleep, don't fall prey to the nighttime terrors like ghouls and spectres and spots.
Not your spot! You go, ah! Don't mention my spot!
I remember when I first got a few spots, and it was my dad who pointed out to me that I was getting spots. I was mortified.
I had this great one once on my nose, and it ended up being, it was like a boil, and about 7 different colours came out of it. It was great.
John washes carefully every day. So does Rick. John's soap smells nice.
Rick's face wash clears away grease.
John Soap's a pretty colour.
Rix helps clear pore-clogging dirt and kills bacteria.
John Soap's got a fancy name.
Rix face wash is called Biactol.
John's spots are a problem.
Rix aren't.
A friend of mine used Biactol, I used Oxy-10. I think there was a little bit of tension between us.
There was this really kind of like, you know, Reaganite war policy attitude to spot creams in the mid-80s. Blitz them!
Did your perm go wrong? No, spots. Sit. No. Well, this stuff really works. Oxy-10. You've got to ask the chemist for it. Here. Oh, Tom.
You gonna tell her or shall I?
Blitz those zits with Oxy.
All the adverts for all those products like Clearasil and things like that had these beautiful girls who had one stuck-on spot that the makeup artist had very cleverly applied, and then one application of Clearasil and they're gone.
But spots hate Clearasil. Lotion and now milk, both with that pore deep cleansing and antibacterial action.
So they'd put a kind of very white bit of cotton wool. They'd do that and it'd be black.
And you'll help prevent spots going bump in the night.
It's your first date with some girl you're going to go out with, and you're guaranteed to get a massive spot in the head, like not just like a little pimple, but big volcano.
My sister's a greaser. It makes her prone to spot.
And I plucked up the courage the day before to ask this girl out. And I thought, right, I'm going to ask her out. And then I remember waking up and the idea was a huge, great spot. Oh, spot. And me being me thinking, no, it doesn't matter, I'll still ask her. And because of the spot, I didn't get anywhere. Could have been like sliding doors.
For fewer spots, wash with Biactol. It's better than soap and water, John.
In 1985, men stopped shaving and started rolling up the sleeves of their jackets. Miami Vice was what you got if you mixed the Sweeney with Wham.
It had a cracking theme tune. Every time you hear it, you just say, uh-oh, Miami Vice.
Well, they looked like they were gigolos, really, but they were going around solving crimes which invariably involved drugs and bombs.
The hippest show, really, I don't think there's been a show like Miami Vice on television since.
The standard fare on TV when we came on Miami Vice was the Dukes of Hazzard. So that's what people saw every day. So when we hit the airwaves, we were radical, to say the least.
Freeze! Miami Vice, drop him. Drop him.
I think Michael Mann pitched it to the network, MTV Cops. That was the whole sum total high concept.
And so that meant everything from cutting styles to how it was shot to locations we went to, the clothes people wore, music, sound effects, dialogue.
The last time I requested a backup, I nearly got shot to death by Bluto and Lee Harvey Oswald over there. And as for progress reports, I'd just as soon buy radio time.
And that was the approach we took to it, is go make a small movie in 19 days in Miami.
I'm just an average man with an average life. I work from 9 to 5. Hey, hell, I pay the price.
TUBBS, Tubbs. Tough, unique, bad, bodacious, and sassy. And I read this script, and it was just fantastic. I told my manager, I have to do this role.
You know, this investigation is dead in the water without me, man.
What are you talking about?
I bust last night. As far as Calderon's people...
But for Philip Michael Thomas, landing the role of Ricardo Tubbs wasn't easy.
They said that I wasn't right for the part. And I said, they're crazy. I gotta do this.
You need me, Crockett.
Fortunately, I was brought back. They said, Philip, we have one more person we want you to read with. That was Don Johnson.
I don't know how this is going to work, Tubbs. I mean, you're not exactly up my alley, style and persona-wise.
Don and I had an incredible chemistry that happened from the moment that we met, and so the rest was history.
You got some credentials other than that pretty face?
Don Johnson was, you know, he was tanned, he was rugged looking, and yet he was kind of pretty, and he was just gorgeous. He was so far away from the blokes that we saw on the street.
You satisfied?
Satisfaction's a whole nother thing. But you can come on in.
It was like working, I guess, with like an Elvis or something.
Champagne, anybody?
Look, I don't know about you party types, but I gotta be at work tomorrow, so can I just drop anyone?
I just watched any new female friends that I would meet. Usually about 3 weeks after meeting me, they'd finally get around to going, so when am I gonna meet Don?
Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, Trudy. Good night, Tubbs.
Don Johnson, the John Travolta, really, of the 80s, wasn't he, in that way, in terms of a style guru.
Fashion was probably 50% of our show's success in terms of the way the clothes were styled, the glasses we wore, the watches we wore. And I saw people around the world just imitating exactly what we did. That's the power of television.
There was such a battle going on at the time because in clubs, there'd be so many lads arguing with bouncers going, have you not seen Miami Vice? You don't come in without a tie on, you know, and it's like, this is the look, man.
Absolutely.
The tan and the kind of false blonde hair and pastel jackets with shoulder pads rolled up there and pushed up. You know, just pushed up.
The hell did I do to deserve this one? Hey, man, it's only rock and roll. 8 to 5, this is some publicity stunt.
You'd only see people in Newcastle dressed like that, and I think they still do.
Every time I would go on, you know, a date, it was like more than half the time the guy would show up dressed either as like Don or Philip, and I used to go, no.
Not my style.
The white guy wore white pants and a t-shirt and loose-fitting jackets and no socks.
It's not very hygienic, is it?
And like little men's espadrilles.
And you always imagine that you might get a verruca or something.
Which is, of course, a gross violation of all adult dressing codes.
Well, Geldof had the designer stubble, didn't he? Even George Michael had designer stubble. I never thought there was anything that designer about it. So every girl that I went out with used to say it gives them a rash.
All right, I did it. I didn't wear Miami Vice clothes because I've never worn pastels in my life because they're scary. But a lot of people did. But I did shave my cheekbones and leave a 3-day growth of beard there. Not every day of my life, but I did do it occasionally.
When you do a show like that, they give you things. The famous boat. Well, Wellcraft, they gave me one of those boats. And then Don, they gave him a boat. Eddie Olmos, he got a boat. So I was on the water having a good old time.
The difference between men and boys is the price and size of their toys.
Tubbs had this fantastic 64 Cadillac in metallic blue. But to begin with, the main car, driven by Crockett, was a Ferrari Daytona Spider, which in the 80s would be worth, £3 million. But who cared? It looked beautiful, it sounded beautiful, and you just sat there and you so willingly suspended your disbelief.
Because that was my favorite part of the show. When he would brood and drive around town, they'd go, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh, Lord.
How much time we got? 25 minutes.
It's just a Phil Collins song and a poignance of it for Crockett at that moment. It just was something I knew I wanted to use that piece of music.
Man, you know, I'm bumming.
The hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. Some strangers to you and me.
And by me being in the drug game and stuff, we used to watch Miami Vice to see the drug dealers' houses and the cars and the chicks.
Going somewhere, Philly?
Even pop star Phil Collins got a starring role.
You scared me, boys. Like, I'm sorry the party's over, right?
No lie. Took the words right out of our mouth. Possession, a felony. Maintaining a premises for the use of, also a felony. Conspiracy to obtain for sale, a felony.
Regular litany of evil, isn't I?
It was exciting as hell to do, and so people wanted to be in it, be on it. We wanted them in it. Let's go.
He was the hottest thing then. He was the hottest TV star, so I guess that garnered a lot of attention.
What are you going to protect me with? A blow dryer?
I remember our wedding, The TV wedding was the cover of People magazine, you know, just because, you know, Sonny takes a wife.
I think they killed her. I hope they killed her. That's always what's the best. It's not sexy unless the wife is gunned down brutally by a rival drug gang.
It was very tragic. It was very sad.
It is said that you are going to be leaving Miami Vice.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
I think after 5 years, the people behind it were just done.
As long as there's rock and roll and drug smuggling, we'll stay on the air.
After running the show on a very hands-on basis, probably about a year and a half, I was hot to go back to what I do, which is writing and directing.
I'm very happy doing Miami Vice.
I didn't want it to end. I thought it could have gone on for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more years. I miss it. I really miss it.
My face, I've changed my name, but no one wants you when you lose.
In the excesses of the 80s, it was all about the strongest and the biggest, and you know, and boy, did those perfumes come into that category.
That's when people sprayed on their knees. What was that? That was definitely an 80s trend. Spraying on the knees, on the hair.
Just get loads of girls coming to school and you just knock you out. The stench of it would be like, oh, everyone's wearing poison today, excellent.
Poison. Le parfum par Christian Dior.
So strong and so over the top, and you didn't just do a little shh, shh. It was shh.
Opium was the worst perfume to overdo, especially if you had a hangover.
The smell was so strong, you could actually hear me coming. Oh, Gina's in Peckham. She'll be here in about half an hour.
And at the time, when you're 15, any guy that wears aftershave, always lovely, smells lovely.
Glade, the air freshener, you know, when things were tight, difficult.
You could smell my brother a mile away. He'd come down, we'd be like, oh, who are you trying to impress tonight? He reeked. That Drakkar Noir.
Within Drakkar Noir, there is a power. Drakkar Noir by Guy Laroche. Feel the power.
Yeah, this is how you impress the ladies.
Actually wasn't so bad, Pac Rabanne. When it first came out, it was quite sophisticated.
Loads of it on. You just keep doing that for hours and hours until you snap. It didn't impress the girls at all.
If you wear an aftershave, and lots of it, kill a girl at 20 paces.
Pac Rabanne for men. What is remembered is up to you.
When you were little, did you dream that one day your prince would come? In 1985, he did.
Prince was the sex god and talked about it and sung about it and danced it. It was just dirty.
All that splits and spinning and all that stuff. He was the man.
Prince, was such a short little man. He was the sexiest thing when I was 15.
It was a girl thing, wasn't it? Girls loved him.
I was totally gaga about this guy.
He kept hot chicks around him. A lot of people envied Prince, you know.
The inference I took from it was that he could have sex with any one of these women at any time.
Communicating with me just through telepathy.
Prince was the cook, we were the spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
80s music was like, I mean, you moved like this to it, right? Right? And then all of a sudden, and then, you know, like, And then he's he like, was like, you know, like, you're like moving like this.
Just want your extra time, yo.
I went to high school with Prince, Minneapolis. He was pretty quiet. And I remember him doing his demos and stuff for his first album. He was like 17, 18 years old when he was doing that stuff. I mean, he did all the instruments himself. Locally, we knew he was the baddest. If anybody was going to make it out, it was going to be him. Totally turned the whole thing around in '80 when he came out with Dirty Mind, and he came out with the trench coat and the bikini and the whole deal. Because he'd come out and people would go, man, what is he doing? But they loved it. You know, they didn't know what they were seeing, but they loved it.
Prince had the idea for the song Purple Rain. I think he had like a few chords and actually showed it to Wendy, and then Wendy was the one who put those beautiful chords that's the intro to Purple Rain.
I never meant to call you when you fall.
And it just worked beautifully, and we knew as soon as they were married, we just knew this is just it.
Purple Rain turned Prince into a pop superstar.
Purple Rain, Prince!
My only fault with Prince would be that his dress sense sucked. Big one.
It was to me. It was just like, how do you look like a rock star? Get the purple boa, get the purple Mylar jacket, get the studs. What can you wear to make yourself go,
How can you just leave me standing alone in a world that's so cold?
He has an air of mystery about him, and I think women really go for that. Women love, you know, trying to unravel the puzzle.
I'm not a big talker or anything, but I just like to say that it's nice to know that someone cares and loves you so far away. Thank you.
The more famous he got, the more he relied on us to speak. So it became actually even more, we became more confidants for him.
Prince, what are your first impressions of Sheridan, Wyoming?
Purple. This is really nice.
It was overwhelming for him. And he, a lot of times, didn't know what to say.
Excuse me.
We had great times with him. The later the years went on and the more pressure he was under, those kind of times kind of dwindled and became less and less. And Sign of the Times was very much like that. It was a very, very difficult time. None of us were really getting along well. He was constantly pissed off at us. It was a very strained time. And at the time, we were fighting. There was fire coming out.
Sitting on when a rocket ship explodes, and everybody still wants to fly.
Prince is an entertainer, and I think when we were fired,
he was wanting more of the entertainment
value, and Lisa and I were like,
we wanted less.
We wanted less.
You're right. He was firing us essentially. I think he felt in order to get to the next level, he needed to take it all back and do it by himself like he did in the beginning on his first record. And I was disappointed and hurt by it.
He's the closest thing to genius that I've ever, come in contact with.
And I think that his best work has been in the 80s. And I think that he's got even better in him than what was in the 80s. I think he hasn't even begun to be what I think I know him to be musically.
Still playing video games? Your mom always told you spent too much time in the amusement arcade.
We would hunch around like one machine, about 50 of us. My turn, guys. It's like,
the attention, do you know what I mean? This whole sort of crowd of people watching you fight these things.
You're completely detached from reality.
We're in the game. I'm going, yes!
You're gonna do it. Oh no, he's messed it up.
There was always one person who was ace.
Roll call of honour, you know, on the screen of, like, you know, Julian 2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Oscar! My name's
The arcade was a glorified boys' bedroom. And of course, you know, any place where the boys are, the girls are going to come and, you know, sort of peek and see, you know, who's there.
There weren't many girls. I remember there'd be a few, like, in the corner with lots of love bites all over their necks.
Oh, Phoenix.
But your enemies were birds. It was like space birds.
They go across like that. Those big 10p coins, like size of Manchester. You have to take him into the arcade.
Well, Galaxian, instead of just marching backwards and forwards in rows, would come and attack you.
And then they would sort of break off and come down. You'd have to shoot the first two and then the middle one to get the most points.
200 points. Game over. And you're like, get off, I want to go home. My go, my go!
I mean, Defender had all of these controls, and I'm like, are 2 or 3 people supposed to play this at one time?
It used to have up and down and fire, and then you could turn backwards and give it a bit of that. Or was it a bit of that? I can't remember. But it was one of them.
It had a really satisfying sound when you shot the things, a really satisfying thud.
Explosion effect, just boom, you know.
I'd play it for days, to the point where I would have, like, Jogger's Nipple. It was like Defender Finger.
They were the badass games, you know.
I think that's probably why I'm riddled with arthritis now.
We're at the Ideal Home Exhibition doing the Pepsi Challenge, and this geezer here has volunteered to do it. Have you seen it on the telly?
Yeah, I have.
What do you reckon?
Well, I think it's a bit stupid, isn't it?
Do you really know the difference? Taste them two, tell me which one you like best. Smack your lips at me, mate, I tell you.
That one.
You prefer that one? Would you normally pick Pepsi?
Nah, you must be joking.
Let's see what you have picked.
Take the Pepsi Challenge. Let your taste decide.
I'm Mary Whitehouse. I didn't actually see Spitting Image last week, but it was disgusting.
When I was told there was going to be a satire programme involving puppets, I just thought, how naff.
Michael Jackson?
Yes?
We're from the Jehovah's Witnesses. We wondered if you'd go and join some other sect instead. Please?
Irreverent, nasty.
It was latex anarchy.
Sex, sex, sex.
Spitting Image really cheered you up because it was so dirty, it was so subversive, so I loved every minute of it.
Do something, for God's sake, you half-crazed, peanut-brain-out cowboy!
Oh, an obscene phone call. Carry on.
The shock value of the puppets really blew people away.
The one blessing is they haven't done the Queen. Oh.
I loved the portrayal of the royal family. I thought that was magnificent because it was at a time when no one said anything bad about the royals.
I mean, I found myself talking like that, and I don't know, it just sort of stuck.
Just a teeny-weeny moment, Mrs. Thatcher. I'm in the middle of an absolutely vital call. So that's a £5 each way on Saucy Peg at the 2:30 in Newmarket.
We'd have the Queen saying,
Philip, come to bed, I'm feeling horny.
Philip!
Well, what now?
I forgot to troop the colour.
Did you?
Yes! It went clean out of my head.
Just kind of reduced the mystique. I mean, just wiped it away.
Philip, you wouldn't pop down and troop it for me?
Oh.
Kebabs for breakfast?
With chili sauce? Oh, all right then.
Oh. Every time you saw Fergie, she would say, call me ginger pudding, I love it.
My close friends call me Randy.
I'm a naughty guy.
I mean, Spitting Image went straight for the jugular. Nobody was safe.
Gentlemen, pray be upstanding for your most gracious sovereign, the Queen. Good evening, boys. Good evening, Your Majesty.
We had her as the target, an incredibly interesting bunch of cabinet ministers, you know, the Norman Tebbits of this world, just gifts for satire, really.
Would you like to order, sir?
Yes, I will have a steak.
How'd you like it?
Oh, raw, please.
And what about the vegetables?
Oh, they'll have the same as me.
That'll be happy.
Spitting Image did tend to get people right.
Pagan man body splash. I'm sorry I couldn't get the hairspray.
Say that again.
Couldn't get the hairspray.
And on this bit?
Hairspray.
That'll do nicely.
I mean, Roy Hattersley crystallised that sort of vulgarity and cruelty and slight unfairness that the puppets had.
Well, Robin, at the risk of being clobbered with a 10-pound bowling ball, the simple answer is no, and not a bullet.
I can remember the first time I saw me on it. I was astounded to see this thing that looked like me in a very satirical way, but you could recognise it as me. And astounded that I recognised some of the mannerisms and recognised the joke they were making.
Nurses, pensioners, nurses, popular sort of people, people that people like.
Oh, I see.
Toilet Potter, toilet.
The reaction you wanted to hear was that politicians were angry. I mean, far too often what you heard is they were flattered.
I don't think I ever felt flattered about the programme at all. Flattery is not the right word.
When we get in, we'll reduce unemployment, increase spending, improve services, and make everything wonderful.
Oh, David, how can we be sure we're not going to break these promises?
Because we're not going to get in, are we, Shorty? Vote David Owen!
When the big alliance happened, they put the little David Steele in David Owen's pocket.
Oh, David, don't leave me. I feel the surge coming. The surge! Oh!
The sort of trickle effect over very many weeks of me being a sort of pushover was probably a bit damaging.
Spitting Image, you just wanted to see what new puppet were. And then you'd go, ah, and then that was it. Big deal, and who could do the voice. But when it got to like all the Tories and Labour and everything, you weren't bothered. You just wanted to get onto the song.
Hold a chicken in the air or something.
Number one.
Bury all your clothes, paint your left knee green, then extract your wisdom teeth, form a string quartet, and pretend your name.
I can't bear it. I can barely bear to hear it now.
Chicken in the air.
Stick a deck chair up your nose.
Fire jumbo jet.
Our main target was Mrs. Thatcher, but bringing down the government's sort of quite difficult to achieve. And after 10 years, we'd entirely failed.
If the 80s were all about greed, then what was Bob Geldof up to in 1985? He created the music event of the decade. Nobody got paid, and he gave all the money away. And there won't be snow in Africa this Christmas time. The greatest gift they'll get this year is life. Oh, where nothing ever. Bob Geldof had started the year with the #1 single in aid of famine relief for Ethiopia. With Live Aid, he went one step further.
Following the success of the record, Bob Geldof called me up one day and said, I've got an idea. This thing's become so successful, we'd like to do a show.
I think everybody who's given a couple of pence, and I think everybody has, to the Ethiopian appeal, has felt that somehow it isn't quite enough.
And that's when Bob walked in and said, right, I've got this idea, feed the world. And they had the little drawing of the world with a knife and fork, and here we go, we're going to do a concert.
He said, I'm holding the date in July, and I said, but it's May. And he said, well, so what?
Geldof was determined that the Live Aid concert would be staged in Britain, Australia, and America.
When I met Bob for the first time, the nondescript guy walked in the room and said, listen, I don't want to bug you, but I need your help. What you got right away from Bob was sincerity. I've been there, I've seen it, I know the problems, and can you give me a hand? And the answer was, you got me.
You had to sell loads of records to get on. I mean, it was nothing to do with personal taste or anything to do with that. If it was, then you'd have had terribly obscure acts all over Live Aid.
We duly organised a press conference at Wembley Stadium, and I kept saying to Bob, who exactly are we announcing for this show? We don't have an act confirmed. He said, just announce the lot.
You hear all these stories about, oh, I can't do it because he said, no, you're doing it, and I'm telling the press you're the only person not doing it. So it was some serious blackmail going on.
Daily Star here, Live Aid, 16 hours to rock the world. The Sun talking about the £7,000 paid by two people yesterday for tickets. Live Aid fever, says the Daily Mirror. Russia tunes in for Live Aid, says the Daily Mail.
Really remember I was crapping myself. Yeah, I remember the guy, I thought it was naff what he said. It's 12 o'clock in London.
It's 12 noon in London, 7 a.m. in Philadelphia.
Who is this, DJ guy, and he did it in a DJ voice.
And around the world, it's time for Live Aid.
Actually, he was right. It sounds quite cool now when you hear it.
And now, to start the 16 hours of Live Aid, would you welcome Status Quo?
Are you all right?
It was just brilliant. They go, all right. I think it was something like that, they said, which was so brilliant because it was so nothing. The expectation was so huge.
I've still got the original ticket up on my notice board at home, and it's something that I'm going to tell my son about, when he's a little bit older, and say, okay, on this day in 1985, this is what happened.
When I was watching Live Aid, I felt like I was watching history in the making. It was such a global event.
The lineup, it was like it was compiled by some 40-year-old hi-fi salesman. For Jeremy Clarkson, he probably loved every minute of it.
Had to work out when were you going to go to the toilet, because it was a good 25-minute round trip, and it was a tricky one. You think, was it Charlotte? I don't want to go. So I eventually came to the decision that I would go during Brian Ferry.
Bono taking the girl from the audience. The moment was lovely when he got her up there, and it was a great moment. But the palaver of fishing her out, getting her through the security barriers, up on the stage, that's what I thought was so funny about it. But it was a lovely thing to do.
It was the first time that television had ever allowed 16 or 17 hours of continuous music on television. It was just unknown.
The whole thing was flying by the seat of your pants, because it had to be.
Somebody yelling in my ear actually tells me that they're not quite ready. Oh, I understand they are ready, so no, they're not ready. Right, a nation is.
You were definitely up at the sharp end at Live Aid, because it was chaos.
On stage now, stand by, please, for Nick. Oh, we go back to Andy Kershaw. Ron Kershaw, Andy, to you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise I was on.
I happened to be there doing the linking with Bob Geldof when he was at his lowest ebb, and I think his back was killing him, and he felt that the phones weren't as live as they should be.
And all these people are not playing for the good of their health, they're playing for the good of other people's health. So get your money out now.
So Bob was getting very passionate about this, and we want people to send in their money and all this. And I said, OK, Bob, well, we'll go to the address, don't we?
No, let's fuck the address. Let's get the numbers, because that's how we're going to get it.
I think we're going to have the address first. I felt a bit cross, frankly. I said, well, Bob, I'm on your side as much as anybody.
There was one point at which David Bowie dumped one of his songs and walked off stage, and they showed the film.
The subject speaks for itself. Thank you. Good night. Please send your money in.
And the whole place just went completely quiet. I'm getting hairs on the back of my neck standing up thinking about it.
And as the sun breaks through the piercing chill of night on the plain outside Coram, it lights up a biblical famine, now in the 20th century.
Because I want those people to be around 20 years from now. I don't want to just scatter the money. And the responsibility, as far as I read it, and the job, the brief as I see it, is to keep people alive.
Can't go on.
was like a reverse of the sort of current trend of making money and just being, I suppose, selfish. It was suddenly like, okay, let's step back, let's look at other people and let's raise money for them and stop thinking about ourselves for once.
As an Ethiopian, which I am, you did get the feeling that appealed to a lot of people's stereotypes about Africa being poor and wanting and needy. But hey, you know, they did a great thing. They did a great thing.
It might be a bit of a cock-up, but if you're going to cock it up, you may as well do it with 2 billion people watching you.
And everyone together to do the end of Live Aid, and you know, that was like school. It was a nightmare, you know, and I was unfortunately head prefect for the day.
Goodbye Philadelphia, goodbye America.
The whole end of the thing was a total shambles. And I thought I'd better start the bloody thing, or no one will know when to start. So I think I sang It's Christmas Time. Maybe I didn't.
Christmas time. It's no time to be afraid.
We were in shock. I think the total was about 140 million, and our target from the beginning was 1 million.
We can spread a smile of joy.
For the first time, it was a sense of hope that the world is going to pay attention finally, and that evening was electric.
Sing it to the world!
So that's 1985. Hope it was good for you too. Next week, it's 1986.
That's a knife.
Walk like an Egyptian.
The theme from Miami Vice by Jan Hammer is just one of the tracks featured on I Love the 80s, the compilation on BBC CD.